Coming up on District Wire News, gunfire and violence erupt again in Libya shortly after NATO announces it's taking control of the military mission. A full report ahead.
And later, surveillance cameras are being installed outside all 86 Metro Rail stations in an effort to prevent crime. We've got a live report. District Wire News starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Kristen Parada.
And I'm Stephanie Goldberg.
Gunfire and violence have erupted again in Libya today. It comes directly after NATO announced it's taking control of the military mission. Greg Black of CNN has the latest.
The sounds of explosions and gunfire rumble like thunder over Tripoli Sunday. Further east, rebels say they took control of two key oil cities, Ras Lanuf and Brega. Opposition members waved American and Libyan flags along the outskirts of Ras Lanuf. But the U.S. won't be leading the mission moving forward. On Sunday, NATO announced it will take over all military operations.
We are already enforcing the arms embargo and the no-fly zone, and with today's decision, we are going beyond. We will be acting in close coordination with our international and regional partners to protect the people of Libya.
The move will allow the current coalition, led by the U.S., the U.K., and France, to stand down. That may please some legislators who criticize President Obama for the U.S. involvement. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright says the president made the right move.
I think he handled it very well, and the reason we intervened is that terrible things were happening on the ground in Libya. People were being killed, and Gaddafi himself had said that he was going to slaughter everybody. We had international support for it.
NATO's first step to take charge of the no-fly zone. I'm Greg Black reporting.
President Obama will address the nation tonight to talk about the crisis in Libya. He will go into detail about his plans and reasons for military intervention. The United States began operations in Libya 9 days ago. Since then, both Republicans and Democrats have criticized Obama for not being clear about his goals.
Radiation fears are rising in Japan as contaminated radioactive water was found on Sunday. The water was found around the earthquake-stricken Fukushima nuclear plant. Experts also found plutonium in the soil around the plant. TEPCO is measuring the radiation as 10,000 times more than normal. The Japanese government is criticizing TEPCO over inaccurate radiation readings. Japanese government officials warn that radiation could spread to seawater.
Despite assurances that trace amounts of radiation reaching the U.S. from Japan are not harmful, many people remain skeptical, especially if it is in the form of food grown in Japan. The U.S. took steps to block food and milk imports from Japan's radiation zone, but there are still some worries. Ted Rowlands of CNN reports.
Mei Lee says she's concerned about the possibility that radiation could get into the food she buys from this Japanese grocery store in Los Angeles.
I really care about the food, actually. If from the Japan, I want to make sure. For example, the fish, I'm not going to buy anything. But probably now it's okay, but probably 2 or 3 months later, I'm not going to buy any fish from Japan.
These noodles are made in Tokyo, and there are two concerns right now going on at this Japanese market in Los Angeles. One is that customers are worried they're not going to be able to get their hands on products like that made in Japan, so they're coming in and buying a lot of them. The other concerns revolve around radiation fears, obviously. Fresh fish, vegetables, etc. About 30% of the fish at this market comes from Japan, and folks here at the store say a lot of customers are concerned about radiation.
Good amount of people come in and ask questions, about regarding, if products are, they have radiation or anything like that. But all of our products do come through, the FDA. They're inspected very tightly. So anything that we get is it's safe.
Despite official reassurances that Japan's nuclear plant problems have not affected the U.S., people, especially on the West Coast, don't necessarily believe they're safe.
I think the experts aren't telling us everything.
Why?
They don't want to cause panic.
The government has a vested interest in saying no, and who knows? They're finding it in the food over there. They're finding it in the water. They're finding it in some people. So obviously it has there's some problem with it. But whether it's going to come here or not, who knows?
The fear touches a very basic part of our brain that fears the unseen danger. The advisories touch that part of our brain which is intellectual. The fear trumps that part of our brain that can intellectually process what the doctors are telling us.
And this one, soba noodle from Japan.
Experts say Mei Li and others who buy Japanese products in the U.S. don't need to worry right now, but that doesn't mean they won't. Ted Rowland, CNN, Los Angeles.
Another earthquake off the northeast coast of Japan shook the already devastated region early this morning. The 6.5 magnitude earthquake hit about 67 miles east of the badly damaged port city of Sendai. It prompted a brief warning of a possible small tsunami, but there have been no reports of injuries or damage as a result.
DC police are cracking down on the sale of synthetic marijuana known as K2 or Spice. Stores are being notified to stop selling the product or they risk penalties. The drug is legal under DC law, but some of the chemicals used to make it have been temporarily banned by the DEA. The fake pot became popular because it cannot be detected in standard drug tests.
A large mass washed up to Virginia Beach's shoreline yesterday and caused many Virginians to take a closer look. The large mass turned out to be a 40-foot-long sei whale that died and washed onto shore. The Virginia Aquarium says that it is very rare for this endangered species of whale to be near the shores of Virginia. The aquarium plans to perform a full necropsy today to determine the cause of death. The whale is expected to be removed from the beach as soon as possible. Surveillance cameras are now being installed outside of the DC Metro's 86 stations. Idia Eisen has more on the story. So Idia, what's going on?
Thanks, Kristen. Well, with serious crimes such as assault and robbery emerging on the Metro Rail system, officials are hoping that these cameras will reduce the rates. I went down to the Metro today to see what was going on. $2.8 million grant from the Department of Homeland Security will be used to purchase 105 colored cameras so that the police can easily identify criminals.
Putting the cameras there is a good idea in terms of like safety and things, but I kind of feel bad for the homeless people that are going to be outside because, I mean, it is like illegal for them to be outside, and that, I don't know, I want them to have a safe place to stay, and if that means that like that's going to be less shelters for them to stay around that's kind of like safe, then I'm not really in favor of the cameras in that sense because, you know, they're human beings too.
So I think a lot of them shouldn't have more cameras. I think it's a little overbearing. Also, the ones in I guess Gallery Place, Chinatown, there's a lot of crime there because all the kids get out of class from school, from all the public schools. There's a lot of people, a lot of homeless people, a lot of traffic, so a lot of pickpockets and stuff. So I think the cameras will actually stop crime there.
Police say robberies and larcenies in and around rail stations have increased from 800 to 1,000 from 2009 to 2010. Metro has been concerned about teenagers hanging around the Metro stations, saying the youth committed 27% of crimes during that period. Metro authorities say a 23-year-old man was stabbed by teenagers on the evening of March 9th outside the Gallery Place, Chinatown. These cameras will be the first to film the exterior of entrances to metros all around the DMV. Camera installations began this Friday. Kristen, back to you.
Thanks, Idia. Next month, DC drivers may see increased fares at some parking meters around the city. This extra money will go to improving the surrounding neighborhoods. Darian Diolio has more.
Two of Washington, D.C.'s busiest neighborhoods may see increases in parking meter fare. The District Department of Transportation is considering fare hikes at Columbia Heights and by the Nationals baseball stadium. Under the new plan, parking in Columbia Heights for 3 hours would increase from $6 to $8.50, making it the highest parking rate in D.C. By the stadium, parking for 3 hours on a non-game day would increase from $4 to $6. Game day rates at Nationals Park would not increase. The Department of Transportation determined which areas should receive a price hike by measuring occupancy and adjusting prices based on how much revenue meters were already bringing in. Though Department spokesman John Liesel says 75% of the money from the meter increases would go towards funding neighborhood improvement projects, some student commuters are skeptical of the price hikes.
30% increase is just kind of obnoxious. like $3 extra to park per hour. I know that the city needs more forms of revenue, but I think constantly tacking that onto transportation isn't the right way of going about it.
For those looking for inexpensive parking, some public garages in the Columbia Heights area remain unused and offer cheaper parking rates. The lot underneath Target costs $1.50 an hour. The adjustments are proposed to take effect sometime in April. Darian Diolio, District Wire News.
Washington Mayor Vince Gray will give his first State of the District speech tonight. He will preview his budget proposal and address the scandal around his administration. The Gray administration is accused of questionable hiring practices. The speech will take place at 6:45 p.m. tonight at Eastern Senior High School. Coming up after the break, the results are in. After 1,804 votes, next year's student government winners are announced. The story and an interview live with President-elect Tim McBride straight ahead.
And the Upward Bound Education Program collaborates with Latin American Youth Center to aid high school students in the college application process. We'll have more after the break.